while I do my morning or maybe mid-afternoon washing up, I often wonder, is America truly free? Or does it just look like it and it's just an illusion or a delusion and everybody is deluded into believing that America is truly free? I think America was only really truly free when Donald Trump was running the country, don't you think? And the restraints that the British still have over America, I think, is still very strong, extremely strong. I mean, if we look at it for a second, that when you have a government, and the government could have been set up in the UK and then go over to America and play American, and then run the country. I mean, so is anywhere really truly free? I don't think it is. I think that the concept or the idea of it sounds really nice until you get a certain, I don't know, party in that's actually been forged by the UK. I mean, how do you not know that that doesn't go on? And if it does, what consequences does it have? You know, the independence and when they split away from the British? Yeah, I think it's just an appearance. It just looks that way. Are they truly free in America? Do you truly feel free? Considering that most of the presidents come from Britain or this area, Ireland, blah de blah, everything can be dressed up to look like something. And perhaps a family member, say if I went over to America, come from Britain, and they could have instilled into me an understanding that my daughter was then going to run for presidency in America, but we were going to back the UK. I mean, could that ever happen? I often wonder this. I'm not saying that it's right, I'm just looking down another way of exploring down a rabbit hole, if you like. I mean, when we look at the wars that we join up to and what we fight in, weird, it seems that the instigators are always the UK, want to instigate a war somewhere, and then we go join in. It always looks like, you know, I think that in separation like that, a lover's tiff, I think it keeps most people that when they've had enough of the UK, rather than going anywhere else in the world, such as the EU or different places like that, the incentive makes you go towards America, therefore keeping you within this side of the world, let's say. I look at war as a very strange thing, that people say they have enemies. And then they say to the people, these are your enemies. They're your enemies. No, they're not. They're your enemies. And in between it, the people are collateral damage. Are they? Are they not? Is it that these groups are coming after you, the individual people, or are they going for the establishments? I mean, most certainly here in the UK, it's all about tax system. And our taxes go on things that don't actually support our country in any way. So we pay a council tax for lots of things. I'm not alone in this thinking that we are forced to pay the police. But do they actually do anything? Have they ever investigated anything for you? And if the police were so successful, why do private companies and organisations hire their own police officers that definitely work for them? You see, it's no different to the government's police. They're there to support the government, protect the government and help the government. And anytime the government fuck up or the police park on double yellow lines, it's very quickly decriminalised. Lots of things become decriminalised in this country when you notice people fucking up. And slavery. What's your take on slavery? Do you think slavery got abolished? I don't. I think it just got bigger. The pit of slaves got bigger and we all were born into it. It just, you know, they say equality, 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 we all got to level up, and equality in Britain is the biggest bollocks I've ever heard in my life. Let's do the math for a second. Do you not have double standards in this country? Have you not got barons, lords, mayors, and aren't they above you? Because if you think about it, Technically they are. And then if we look at Masons and different things, groups such as these, if your brothers and sisters, or brothers because it's all about men, they have a women's night, which is mainly about men though, women aren't allowed. Equality, they say. Equality. Wow. But when we look at that, and then let's take gangs for example, which are no different. And the Mason gang need a favour pulled. But they've got a Mason that's a police officer, a judge, and they're going against someone in the street. And this other average Joe, who is a Mason, is he not going to be protected? And they're not going to overlook crimes. I mean, we've got the royal family that don't do much in this country to protect anybody but themselves. And they say that they reign over the kingdom. That's not true. You reign over the people and control them. And just like your gang, you only protect the ones within your gang that have licked enough arse and kissed enough arse. If any of you want to try and create a government yourself, feel free. You've got Facebook and all the different platforms. Go for it and see how far you get. You ever made an idea, copyrighted it, and then not so long later, everybody's taking your idea, especially the ones with money. And the ones who don't have money and don't have anything are the ones that have this stuff stolen from them, and then they can never reach up because they're too busy passing it between their Mason friends and different things like that. And therefore, it brings you to the very definition of corruption. And then you get your gangs, Masons, just taking this as an example, and they start to spread all the way around the world, different places. Would their favours against somebody in a different country, wouldn't they protect more so and infiltrate? So they would infiltrate the governments all the way around the world. And if that is true, then they might infiltrate your country. Have a police officer, they'll get in there and get high power and get up to the top. Not because of you or because they want to, no. They want to infiltrate. And when you infiltrate something like that, and it comes across someone who isn't in the gang, well, the gang is going to protect the gang itself, regardless of whether the situation that come to hand was legal, justified on their behalf or not. And they might get one of their judges to see it, which is brought out by a Mason. And then when they see it, they're obviously going to protect their Mason friend. I mean, this is proven when you've got sexual abuse allegations and you can pay to get out of it. We've got double standards all over the place. Everybody has to be in lockdown and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And does it actually happen with the elites? No, it doesn't. One rule for you, one rule for me, whilst the ones that are making these rules for you and rules for themselves as they go along, they're also shouting the loudest about this bullshit equality at the tops of their voices. And you notice how everybody's so scared of all of these gangs. And when gangs start to get together, and the police want to try and remove this mentality, and I don't understand why. Why would you want to remove that? If they're not causing any problem and they're just a gang that go about in sheer protection of numbers, but yet you will be split apart. But yeah, the Masons do it, and it's all right. And they can infiltrate governments, they can infiltrate anybody whatsoever, anywhere, who goes against them. And unless you lick their ass, well, then they'll protect you too. That comes at a price. It's very weird to me. It's extremely weird that we've got double standards all the way across the board. You've got private hospitals, and you've got a shitty NHS, they'll say. And that's their opinion, not mine. Why? Well, if the NHS was all that good, and if the, public schools were all that good, then the elites wouldn't mind putting their children in them too. And they wouldn't have made a second one, which is the double, double standard society where they do nothing but bang on about equality. It's interesting, really. All of this very much fascinates me. And then I look at slavery. Did it really get abolished? I don't think so. I really don't. And they'll say, if you want to be rich, go get a job. Name me one person that has worked a job who are rich. One person will do, just one person who has worked a dead-end job. And I mean, the statistics are everywhere. Your grandparents, his friends, of families and families of friends, all across the board, who have worked day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. And you've got the elites at the top that don't do fuck all. I mean, look at the king. Can take out any money to go and renovate a palace at any time. Don't have to fill out any benefit forms. Again, double standards. But if you want to take some money out of that pot, you're not allowed. If you steal from the government or the royals, you're hung, drawn and quartered for it. But yet, if other organisations and businesses steal your idea, steal your concepts, nothing happens. If they steal from you, which is like a bailiff, you know, because, you know, the council and the magistrates' courts, they're all bought. They're not really a court as such. They're owned by the police. And therefore, if you want a fair trial, you ain't going to get it from any of these unless you kiss the asses out of them. It's very strange. We call this double standards in a society that continuously, the ones at the top, bang on about this word called equality and how we've got to make everything equal and fair and a fair and just society. It ain't. But like I said, name me one person that got a job, worked all their life and became rich. One person that worked the bulk of society, the heaviest load that they carried. Name me one person that got rich doing this. Everybody will say, I got a dream. I want to have this business. I want to do this. I want to do that. Well, without a loan, interesting, and a patent, which you get done only in this country. And whilst you've got a patent in this country, your government behind your back are secretly shafting you by going and getting the same patent in America and everywhere else, in China and all the way around the world. And this then, off of your idea that only gets sold in the UK, which keeps you with a limit, is then being sold everywhere else because they're using the taxpayers' money in order to do this and make even more money. But this money that they then get doesn't go back into the tax pot where they stole the money from. No, it goes into their pockets. We've got lobbying here in this country. We've also got a very clever council tax system that comes in, paints double yellow lines on the road, okay, using your taxes. And then using your same tax, which is really funny to me, they'll give you a car park that is overcharged, ridiculously maintained, and all of that money that goes into those car parking machines is accounted for how in tax? Where does that money go? What happens to that money that is earned in the car parks that are owned by the council? And you notice now that they'll start to subcontract these car parks to other companies, but the money goes to South Norfolk and different areas whichever you reside in. It doesn't go back into the tax pot. It goes into the pockets of their friends. And you'll notice that one employer pays you a large amount of money, but it's not for you. That money he wants to give to his other rich friend, such as your landlord, housing association. Now, ever notice that? And then if we were to calculate everybody's council tax in one district, okay, and we were to then calculate all of the outgoing versus the incoming, and when I mean incoming money, I mean from the car parks. I mean from the money that they get from the car parks, the different areas, this, that and the other. The hospitals where you have to pay money for the car park in the hospital, sure as hell doesn't go to the hospital. No, it goes to the government and in their pocket. What about all the taxes on fuel, the taxes on tobacco? You'll hear them banging on in the NHS, but it's not the NHS doing this, so don't take hatred towards the NHS. It's just the government's way of making excuses for what they do. A piss poor job of it. But again, we have a king that stands back and he puts up two of his parties, which are his parties, and considering he's boss because they pay the wage, in his two parties that he puts back, he will never be voted in and the royal family will never be voted out for all of this shit that they may cause. No, the scapegoat is one side of your government. And they'll have another government that comes in to replace it so that they always stay in power. But I want to know what happens with all of this fuel duty, and when we take in the costs of fuel, when we take in the costs of tobacco, when we take in the taxes on all of that sort of stuff, the sugar tax, alcohol tax, and the car parking taxes, and then the council tax, and then you work and you pay a tax. What about that tax? When you add all of this up per district, and then you look at what money is going out, I guarantee you that you'll see this amount coming in and only this amount going out. It's really funny, right? They pay a tax, a high tax on tobacco, but yet when it comes to it, they'll say that the operating theatre tables are all taken up by people who smoke. We're sick and tired of it. Maybe we should make the smokers wait. Hold on a second. Haven't the smokers paid in life, and they've paid in a tax on a very horrible addiction? Haven't they paid a tax? Therefore, doesn't that tax then go to the NHS in order to fund the operations for the stupidity that governments allow in the country, such as smoking? We'll talk about that. Is that not funny? But you never, ever, ever hear anybody talk about people who are drinking alcohol on a Friday, Saturday night and who are jamming up the NHS waiting room. Do they make all of those people who are drunk and who have caused themselves an injury or something like that, do they make them wait? Are they ever talking about them? They're jamming up the NHS. No, they don't. Why not? Why is it always smokers that get it in the neck? I don't understand that. It's very, very bizarre to me. That's like a double standard right there. And then if you're sick, you have to go on a waiting list, and the chances are you'll die whilst on that waiting list. It's a very sad statistic. And oh yes, the government have been given many ways, such as RV hospitals, RV dentists, keep the hospitals, routine surgery done in the back of a cab somewhere, and then you can go home and